Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. I just imagine the scene. Two idiots are hanging out, getting drunk, thinking they scored a sweet new heater. When they hear the buzzing noise and wonder what the hell that sound is, they investigate only to find, oh crap, wasps everywhere! What the hell? But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I really hoped you'd steal this one. And I got my wish. My girlfriend's parents own a large parcel of land in a very rural area, and behind it they have another larger parcel of land leased to hunt on. Last summer, me and her father built a deer stand for me to hunt out, and we put it on a hill between his brother's stand and his unfinished stand. Well, it's not uncommon at all for people to leave equipment in frequently used deer stands, equipment such as space heaters, binoculars, etc. Anyway, about 2 weeks after hunting season was over and me and my girlfriend came back home, her mother called and told us that someone had stolen her uncle's binoculars, rangefinder, and even his space heater, and had stolen the bottles of water I'd left in mine. Yeah, really, water bottles, and left my door open to the elements. This pissed everyone off. Not least because their hunting lease is essentially their backyard. We were told they think he keeps coming back because a game camera went missing a week before, and a couple days after the initial heist, my door was swinging open again, so I began to plan. Girlfriend's parents raise goats. In their pasture, they have an old, rotting shed that's not used anymore, but the goats occasionally sleep in. I went out there once to help clean up a mess left by a coyote killing a baby goat and noticed the biggest wasp nest I'd ever seen. After having our stands broken into, I got an idea. I put on a slicker suit and PVC gloves along with one of my old SCBA masks from work and duct taped every possible seam. I got a wooden box and a garden sprayer full of water and carried it out to the next. I sprayed all the wasps I could with water, they can't fly if their wings are wet, and dislodged the nest and put all the wasps I could find into the box. I then put the box into a cardboard box for a space heater I previously reinforced with duct tape and threw in some scrap metal to give it more weight. I then used Scotch tape to seal all the corners and cracks except for some tiny air holes. So now I have a big box of wasps. I put the box in the corner of my stand and sure enough, a week or so later, my girlfriend's parents called me and said my stand was open again and the box was gone. I hope you open it inside your house, a-hole. And our second story. Okay, boss, let's have it your way. Okay, so this is two stories in one because they're both based in the same company. I used to work for a wind turbine manufacturer and service for some years. A bit of background info. Basically, our job was wind turbine maintenance and occasional troubleshooting. Whatever the reason was to go to the turbine site, most of the times required us to stop the turbine, if it wasn't stopped already due to a fault or something, and go up to do our work. Anyone who's ever worked in those things, going up there's not a walk in the park. After stopping the turbine, the time to go up with the elevator is about 10 minutes. Those things are slow. Taking off the harness and other stuff also takes time, as well as putting all the gear back on when leaving. Not to mention that some sites are quite far away. Here's the first story. Because it was time-consuming and complicated to enter and exit the turbine, we usually had our lunch with us, and we ate it up in the turbine. Because we didn't have an actual lunch break, we just took 10 to 15 minutes at some point of the day to eat our food and then resume working. We got an allowance, which was, can't remember exactly, 10 to 15 euros a day when we had our lunch in the turbine. For some weird reason, our boss started to complain about the extra allowance cost and stated that we're not qualified for it since the conditions of the allowance say that the work site has to be a certain distance from the actual point of employment. Of course, the distance was not always long enough, depending on the site we were working at, but the rules also continued to state, or if it's otherwise not possible to have a lunch break. When we argued that basically it makes no sense to leave the turbine for a 30-minute lunch break, he said that, yes, it's true, but technically we have that possibility, so we're no longer getting the allowance. We were frustrated and angry. However, a couple of my colleagues took this quite literally. Because the boss said we have the possibility to go out for lunch, we do just that. They came to work at 7 a.m., packed their stuff, and drove to the site. They were at the turbines about 8 a.m., got up, gear off, unload the tools, etc., At that point, it was close to 9 or 9:30. They worked for 1 hour. At 10:30, they started packing loose stuff back to bags, geared up, and got down. At that point, it was 11. They drove to a restaurant, usually about a 20 to 30-minute drive. At that point, it was 11:30. They had their 30-minute lunch break. After that, they did all the above in reverse order. By the time they got back, it was closer to 1 p.m. They worked for an hour and a half and started picking up to leave because our workday ended at 3:30 p.m. So what used to be about 10 to 15 minutes of quick lunch became 2 to 2.5 hours in the middle of the day. After a while, the boss started asking why basic maintenance is taking so long, usually about 3 days, but now it was more like 5 days. My colleague calmly explained that since we're not getting the allowance anymore, they're taking their lunch break out of turbine since we technically have that possibility, and by doing that, it takes more than 2 hours out of work time every day. Needless to say, the allowance was brought back quite quickly. Here's the second one. We sometimes had on-calls on weekends, mostly Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. They were only for breakdowns and other unexpected faults. We usually started our on-call at home monitoring with the surveillance system if everything was fine, and if not, we had an hour to leave home. Sometimes just to drive to a distant site to see that some subcontractor had stopped a turbine for work without informing us. Our boss had noticed this as well, and he said that we need to wait for a call from the on-call dispatcher before we go anywhere. That it's actually the rules. Maybe this way we'll eliminate the unnecessary trips. Everyone knew that most of the on-call dispatchers were very lazy. Of all the years I'd already worked in that company, I remember one time getting a call from a dispatcher, a new guy. Half the time they were even positioned in a different country with a different time zone. We told our boss this and he said, "Well, it's their job. You have to wait for a call." Okay, let's do just that then. Just for information, on a windy day, a breakdown costs the customer serious money per hour. Saturday morning, I wake up at 7:30 a.m. I have some coffee and open the surveillance to see if there's a fault in one of the turbines, and it stopped. I messaged my colleague. He told me not to monitor them, and we decide to obediently wait for the dispatcher to give us a green light. 9 a.m., no call. 10 a.m., still no call. Turbine is still down, wind is catching up. This site was pretty far, about a 1-hour drive away, so the dispatcher should definitely react quite quickly. 11:30 a.m., our boss calls. Boss, why is there a turbine stopped and no one's there? Me, we're waiting for a dispatcher to call us as you instructed. Boss mumbles something and says, just go there. Me, but we can't go unless the dispatcher calls us to go. It's the rules, remember? My boss left the call, and 10 minutes later, the dispatcher calls and sounds annoyed. Apparently, my boss called him. Dispatcher, I see you have a turbine down. Why are you not there? Me, our boss told us to wait for your call. He said it's the rules. Dispatcher, well, now I called so you can go. I can see there's another breakdown at another site as well. Let's hope for easy fixes. I can hear him swallowing his pride since he knows it's his job to call as soon as breakdowns occur. After we were so late on leaving home and breakdowns accumulated, we got ourselves a very nice overtime bonus after fixing everything. After this, the dispatcher called every weekend at 8 a.m. when there was a breakdown. Also, like by some miracle, subcontractors were very diligent of reporting their stops to on-call from that point. My boss might have had a strong word there. Today I learned that wind turbines have elevators. Honestly, I thought you had to climb up inside. And our last story. A mom breaks a wheelchair over a parking spot. This happened around 2018. I have a friend that needs a wheelchair to move around. We went together to the mall to make some shopping and eat in a restaurant. He has a disabled parking spot permission, or however that's called. It's much better for him as it has more space and it's easier for him to get out of the car and into the wheelchair. So we parked in the last available disabled parking spot. As we all know, people with no disability take most of them. I always try to help him go out of the car, so I started opening the door to get his wheelchair until I heard someone saying, "Excuse me." We'll call her Karen. Why not? I turned around and I saw a woman in her car, around 30 years old, with her daughter. I guess around 8 years old? I don't really know. Me. Yes? Karen. Are you leaving? Me. Oh, no, sorry, I just parked. Karen, visibly angry. Do you know that this is for disabled people, right? And you don't look disabled. But I am. I can't move properly. So you have to move before I call security. She obviously didn't see this thing that you put in the car, so people know you're disabled and have a permission to park there, which she didn't have. I did hold my need to laugh, turned around to the car again, and took out the wheelchair. Me. I'm not the disabled one. My friend is. Now I'll go help him. Have a nice day. Karen. No, wait. My daughter has a birthday party here, and we'll be late if you don't give me your spot. And they don't let anyone go in if they're late. Me. I'm sorry to hear that, but I really need a disabled spot for my friend. And the way you talked to me before doesn't make me want to help you too much. Karen, screaming, you have no idea what having a kid is. You will ruin her day. Me, no, I'm not who's arguing instead of finding another spot. And you should have come earlier. It's not my fault. Karen comes out of the car and runs to me. She got crazy, screaming, I don't even know what in another language in my face. Me, thought you were disabled. I see you can move perfectly. Well, I don't know how, but this super tiny woman managed to kick the wheelchair so hard that she broke a wheel and then ran away, again screaming in another language and laughing like a little evil girl. She thought that she ruined our day, but my friend has 2 wheelchairs in the car in case one breaks. It happened in the past. We reported it, of course. Police came and told us to come later to the police office so we could eat. Thanks to the security cameras, they found her and made her pay the wheelchair plus compensation. I'm sorry for the girl. She couldn't go to the party because of her crazy mom. It would have been much faster just to find another spot, but okay, Karen. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.